No matter what you think, you will not be able to work forever. At some point, you're going to have to hang up your career that you've worked so hard and turn into retirement. At that point in your life, it will come down to you and your retirement plan that you put together. In this episode, I want to ensure that you have the knowledge you need to prepare your accounts for retirement. That's right. There's some prep work that must be done so that you are ready to take on retirement in the most efficient way possible. No matter where you are in your retirement journey, this episode will give you the information that you need to start this account preparation process to set you up for the greatest retirement years of your life. Here we go.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror. Financial Mirror, where future success is reflected in our knowledge of fixing the one thing we can control, ourselves.
What is going on? Hopefully you are having a great week. I am so excited to tell you that we have received our household goods from our move from Hawaii. So I appreciate everyone that's stuck with me through the past couple weeks of audio being a little off, the video being a little off, but needless to say, we are back. And everything is finally semi-mobile, right? I still haven't got, had to do a new desk, so I'm still waiting for some of that to come in so that we can get that all set up. But more importantly, I have a better than mobile setup. Finally got my microphone, finally got a camera that's a little bit better than what I was using before. So I appreciate it if you have been there with me throughout this entirety, because I know it's been rough. It's been rough for me having to set up and tear down every week. But without further ado, I appreciate you joining in. If this is the first time that you have found the Financial Mirror, where we continue to improve the one thing that we can control, ourselves. Don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube. You'll see when these videos pop out, and you will also be notified of any new releases that maybe are eventually. I'd like to start doing a little off script video, so when those pop out, you'll be able to see them. If you are listening on a podcast platform of your choice, do not forget to hit like and subscribe to show your love and support for the podcast. If you are on Apple or Spotify, the 5-star review and the written comment both go a truly long ways in getting this information out to more listeners. I'm going to start off, and I'm going to start off strong with this one. So if you missed the episodes that I've done over the past couple weeks, I want you to go and find them. They're on my YouTube channel. They're on the Facebook channel. But I want you to go find them because they are crucial to truly understanding retirement. As I've stated in previous episodes, this was not meant to be a retirement, whole retirement series, I guess, but it turned into one, right? Because I started to really dive into how people don't really have a grasp of retirement. They really don't understand all the ins and outs of what retirement is going to entail. And I wanted to bring that knowledge to them. I wanted more people to be able to control their retirement and know they're in control of their retirement. So they're not waiting on things like Social Security. They're not waiting on things to come to them, pensions, whatever, what have you, that you're in control of retirement. The only thing that is I'm going to do in the future that I talked about in a previous episode is talking about the whole FIRE movement and getting people retired early if they so choose, and showing you how you can do that. So that'll be in the future. I'm gonna wrap. This will be the last episode on retirement for the next couple weeks. So this should wrap up this whole entire little segment that I was really trying to accomplish. So if you have questions, as always, please reach out. Let me know. But these 3 episodes you see on the screen, for those on podcasts, there's 3 episodes out there. It's the past 3 episodes. Just pop and listen to those if you haven't already. But those will be extremely beneficial in you getting the ultimate sacrifice. Yeah, you do have to sacrifice for retirement. The ultimate efficient retirement. So if you missed them, go check them out. They're worth listening to. But throughout all of them, I truly just was talking about retirement number and understanding what your retirement number is. And I want this episode to be solely around how to prepare your accounts for retirement. And that's what we are going to focus on today. So at the end of this week's episode, I want you to be confident in your ability to make decisions about your retirement accounts, how they're structured, knowing that you're going to have enough income for your retirement plan. So the first thing that we have to do, and we've talked about this a little bit in other episodes. I'm going to go to a little bit more in depth today because this is all about prepping these accounts. But the first step that I want you to understand is those basic types of retirement accounts. So you do have pre-tax, you do have post-tax retirement accounts, and you got to understand the difference in the two. So we've spent a lot of time talking about these, so I'm not going to go super in depth. But just know that you've got pre-tax and post-tax. So pretty much your pre-tax accounts, you are deferring to pay taxes on it until after withdrawal. And those post-tax, you are going to withdraw those tax-free. So keep that in mind. But all the money in post-tax investments, taxes have already been paid on them. So you don't have to take them out and pay additional taxes on the growth. That's the main part. Your contributions grow tax free. So that's what we want to talk about when we look at the post tax. For this one, for this first part, I'm really going to focus in and really try to get you to understand some of these pre-tax investment accounts because I think a lot of people are more familiar with those. But starting off, I want to hit the most common accounts, which is the 401k and 403b. So these are employer provided. They are limited to a contribution of $20,500 as of this recording in 2022. So you can't contribute more than $20,500 unless you're in those catch-up years. For most people, those are going to be a little too late for these 401ks, but not technically, but for the most part, keep that $20,500 in mind. Sometimes, more times than not, there are matching options in there. So there's a chance that you have you're contributing and your employer is providing you some type of match when you are contributing to that account. So that is free money. Like that is free money and it doesn't come any freer than that. So you should be taking advantage of that first and foremost with that 401k. So when it comes to preparing your 401k and 403b, the first thing that you really need to focus on is getting that full match. So if you are, if you're not debt free, I'm focusing on debt first. But as soon as I can get all that debt paid off, I'm immediately getting up to matching. I'm immediately going to start trying to get that full match from my employer. Okay. That's one of the first things because that's free money for you. That's going to go towards your retirement. How much your employer matches varies from employer to employer. What percentage you need to put in to get a full match varies employer to employer. So please consult with your HR department if you have questions about your match and what that employer provides. So on the basic construct of when you're preparing this, the basic necessities for the 401k and 403b is looking at that traditional versus Roth attribute, right? That pre-tax versus post-tax. I know on the screen, if you're watching, it says pre-tax 401k, 403b, and if you look at post-tax, you don't really see that option, right? It's not technically the case. This is a very new thing. We are seeing more Roth 401k, 403b options. So if your employer provides it and you want to go that route, I mean, go for it. Getting accounts to a Roth is the most simplistic way to grow tax-free. So later on in life, when you start drawing money out of these retirement accounts, you're not paying an income tax. So regardless of what, how much money you make, you know, how much you take out, it doesn't matter. You don't pay income tax on it. So that's one of the beauties and benefits of that. Now, what normally is the recommendation is if you think that you are going to being a higher income tax bracket, when you retire, you would technically want to pay the tax on it now. If you think you're going to be in a lower income tax bracket when you retire, you would want to pay the income tax on it later. So lots to think about. There's a lot of options out there. You can get into Roth conversion ladders. You can get into all this other stuff. But from a simplistic term, you have two options: choose Roth, choose pre-tax, traditional. It doesn't matter at this moment when you're preparing those accounts. Really sit down. Maybe if you want to look at the numbers and see how growth would change, I'd happy to go through it with you. Just go to thefinancialmirror.org and sign up for one of my sessions, and we'll sit down and we'll go through that. Me being your financial coach. So if you want to walk through it, we sure can, but totally up to you on which one of those you choose, but both are out there. So when you're structuring the 401k and you're prepping that account, the most important thing you can do is make sure you're getting the full match. That's the bottom line. Make sure you're getting the full match. Now, let me just hit this up from the beginning, and I've talked about it in another episode, but I'm going to say it right now just in case it's the first time you've caught me. You should be contributing, if you're debt-free, you should be contributing about 15% of your income towards your retirement. 15%. That's after tons of studies of millionaires, that's sort of that magic number, right? Like 15% is a great number to go off of. And that's I'm a Dave Ramsey preferred coach, and that was a study that the Ramsey team did with lots of millionaires studied, but on average 15% was that go-to. So that's where that number came from. It's not an arbitrary 15%. There was a study done on that, and that's sort of what came back. So 15%. So look at your income and get your full match first and foremost when you're prepping that account, and that's sort of give you a guide. So let's say you're doing, for easy math, 10% towards 401k. Cool. Got it. We're going to switch over to the next one. Next up in the chute's that IRA. And we're specifically talking about when we're prepping the accounts, we're talking about initially, we're going to talk about the traditional IRA, right? So the traditional IRA. This is something that you can start with your broker, any brokerage out there. There's tons out there. So they're great investment tools. The number one thing about them is there's normally a ton of fund options, not fun options, but fund options out there. And that's a huge thing. So those IRAs are going to be a little bit more, you're going to have a little bit more options in terms of which funds you can invest in than that 401k. So we want to look at those, the traditional IRA to pick out what funds we're going to invest in. And that's sort of the piece when you're coming to prepping these retirement accounts is we want to have a IRA account for the future. And I'm going to explain why. If we're talking about the traditional IRA first, here's the structure when we're prepping these accounts of how this is going to look. Starting off, you're going to probably start off investing in retirement in your job, the 401k, the 403b. That's how you're going to start investing. You're most likely going to be investing traditional because Roth is still rolling out for a lot of companies. So maybe traditional is your only option. So you invest traditional. And then you leave that job, that 401k sits there. Then what's going to happen is you're going to leave your next job and that 401k is going to sit there. That traditional IRA that you open is going to be that consolidation point, right? You're going to roll all of these 401ks into a traditional IRA. I'll explain why later, but this is sort of the construct. What we want is a traditional IRA that you're not funding out of your own pocket, but that you are funding with your 401k contributions that you're going to roll into them as you're leaving jobs. Okay. So that's sort of that construct. For the other IRA account, when you are prepping your accounts, you're going to focus on the Roth most likely, and we'll get to that here in just a moment when we really start getting into the prepping. But for the IRAs, they are totally just a account that is through a brokerage. $6,000 per person a year can contribute to it. $7,000 if you're 50 or older. Okay. So that's sort of the IRA. Got a little bit ahead of myself. I'm so excited about this that I got a little bit ahead of myself when we started talking about the rollover. So I'm going to get more in detail. So if I lost you on that, bear with me. It's an exciting topic to know that people are going to be able to retire and have all the money that they could have ever wanted. It's an exciting topic. So, personally, you're going to start your IRA with a brokerage of any kind. Look for which funds you want to invest in, and that's probably the brokerage I would go with. So if you look at Vanguard funds, go open your IRA with Vanguard. If you want to look at Charles Schwab, go look at Schwab. Like, they got funds out there. So look around and go after that. Some of those other accounts, could be your pensions or your annuities and those type of things, but those are less common. So focusing today on those 401ks, 403bs, and IRAs. That's what we're focusing on. So let's get our accounts ready. So that's the next part of this. So we sort of gave you a brief understanding of some of those basic accounts I'm going to talk about. So let's get them ready. So the first thing we have to cover is, this is straight off the IRS's website, but we have to cover RMDs, or required minimum distributions, because that's the whole reason that I tell you have to prepare your accounts. If you don't know what required minimum distributions are, that is the sole reason we've got to do this consolidation. That's the sole reason that we've got to do all of this moving money around, because of those required minimum distributions. So at age 72, you are required to start taking a minimum withdrawal amount per the IRS. Right here on the website, you can go look this up for yourself, but you got to take it out of some of your accounts. So the amount that you're required to take, that minimum amount, it does vary. And I'm going to add a link to the worksheet for you to figure out what your minimum distribution would be, or estimated, so that you can figure it out if you're about to retire, or if you just want to get an idea. Or maybe you have retired. This will give you an idea. So if you have a traditional IRA, if you have a 401k, Roth or traditional 401k, or a 403b, Roth or traditional, those are subject to required minimum distributions. Okay. So that's the whole point in preparing your accounts. Most people don't know that. Most people don't know that there's a required amount of money that you have to take out every single year out of these account types. So they have all these accounts, and they have to take a required minimum distribution out of them, right? So big deal, huge deal. So we're going to start off with the 401k. So for the 401k, if you haven't retired yet, as you leave jobs, and I talked about this just a second ago, but as you leave jobs, you need to start rolling these into IRAs. It's super advantageous for you. So first, it's because there are normally more funds to select when you are in an IRA versus your company's 401k provider. Whoever services that 401k, there's normally more funds in the IRA than there are with that 401k provider. Second, accessing those accounts can become difficult at times after you've left the job. I went through it myself, so I want to tell you, they had moved to a new 401k company. I had no idea, no notification that they had done so. And it took, jumping through hoops to try to get back access to my 401k account that I had money in. So super advantageous for the two reasons. One, more fund options available for you to invest in. Two, one consolidated area for all your accounts to be for access reasons. Okay. So you can see it, you can manage it, so forth, so on. Now, if you have a Roth 401k and 403b, you can just roll those into a Roth IRA. So if you have a Roth IRA open, then you can just roll those into it. If you don't have a Roth IRA open, you can open a Roth IRA and roll those into it. If you have traditional 401k, 403b, you've got two options. You can roll it into a traditional IRA, no strings attached. You just roll it over, open a traditional IRA and roll it right in there. Or you can roll it into your Roth IRA. You've just got to pay taxes on it. So you'll have to pay taxes on that money that was taxed. You didn't pay tax on when it went to that traditional 401k, 403b. So you got to be taxed on it. So which of those options you choose is, you should talk to a financial advisor. You should talk to a financial coach or accountant, whoever you trust with your finances the most. You should reach out to them and really get to the bottom of which one is best for you. So regardless, you need to roll it into one of them. You need to consolidate, get out of these 401ks, 403bs after you've left the job, and get those into an IRA. Okay. That's the end story. When all is done, you're going to have a Roth IRA potentially and a traditional IRA potentially. Like that's the deal. Maybe you have both. And if at the end, I'm going to lead you to a path where you're probably going to have both. So the next thing, if you have retired 401k, 403b, talk to an advisor, talk with a financial coach, talk to someone. Little harder to just start rolling things around and moving stuff. Like really your plan, you've lost time on your side. So it's time to, you really need to talk to someone about these decisions, because there are lasting impacts if you just start rolling money around. So now if you have a traditional IRA, right? This is the reason for this RMD thing. If you have a traditional IRA, at age 72, you've got to take minimum distributions from it. Now, you can take the minimum distributions, you can convert it to an IRA, a Roth IRA if you so choose, but you got to pay taxes on it. There's a ton of options out there. But either way, if you leave it a traditional IRA at age 72, you've got to start taking money out with those RMDs, those required minimum distributions. Okay? So if you leave it traditional, you got to do that. If you switch it to a Roth, roll it into a Roth, you don't have to take money out anymore. Like there's no RMD on a Roth IRA. So keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is if you do roll it into a Roth, you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to take a $200,000 account and pay taxes on it. Like you can roll it in $50,000 at a time, $20,000 at a time, $20,000 a year, right? So you only pay tax on the $20,000 versus the $200,000. The other thing is you can develop a Roth conversion ladder. I'll do that's a whole episode in of itself. So I'll do that episode in the future. And then that does help with limiting your taxes you have to pay. Now, the reason all of this combination is necessary is very simply put in a few sentences. You are required to take an RMD from your traditional IRA and every single individual 401k and 403b. So think about that. You've got 5 retirement accounts, a traditional IRA, and 4 401ks from your past 4 employers. You've got to take 5 minimum distributions. Okay? That's why consolidation is so important. You've got to really start to look at why I want to consolidate all this is so I don't have to take that. Because what if you don't need that much money? Yes, you take it out, and it's not like you lose it if you take it out, but that's money that was just sitting in there growing, right? It's just growing. So you don't have to take it out. Why? Why would you? Just put them all into a traditional IRA and call it a day. Roll your traditional into a Roth if you and your financial coach, financial advisor, accountant talk about it and you discuss that's the best option for you. Once again, this is not financial advice. I'm not here giving you financial advice. This is simply education purposes. So don't take it as financial advice. Please talk to your financial advisor about all this. What I'm telling you is that you need to consolidate these accounts. If you have a bunch of traditional 401ks, 403bs, roll them into a traditional IRA. You're not going to pay taxes on it now, and you're going to let that money grow, right? That's the biggest thing. So the biggest reason it matters is because when you stop working, you want to be stress-free. Like you want to be stress-free. You want retirement to come, and you want to be stress-free. So when you've done all your work on the front end and you're preparing these accounts, all of a sudden you retire. And if you go back to my previous episode and you look at that hybrid retirement approach, you will retire stress-free. You will have all these different accounts and you'll be able to pull from them in such a manner that you can live off your entire retirement nest egg comfortably. And that's the key part. It's the part that I really want you to understand is that you are in complete control of this and you will win at retirement if you will just do the work on the front end. All this work required on the front end allows you to retire freely, efficiently, and stress-free. So when you retire, don't end up with multiple 401ks. Don't do it. It's total headache. Getting access to the accounts after this account may have even bottomed up, bellied up or whatever, and has, you can't even get in touch with anybody. You don't even know where your 401k is sitting at anymore. There's tons of things out there. Take all of your 401k, traditional 401ks, and roll them into a traditional IRA. Take your Roth your Roth 401ks and roll them into a Roth IRA, right? Just put the money into these IRA accounts and end up with potentially 2 retirement accounts, a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA. And that's that. Like, that's it. You have 2 retirement accounts to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. Now, you can also do, if you're doing the rollovers and you're able to get, if you're doing all traditional and 401k and you're not at 15%, you can still open a Roth IRA and contribute the $6,000 a year to that account, right? You can have both. And then when you need to roll money into it, you just roll the money over into it, right? So that's what I'm going to recommend. That's what I'm going to talk about. When we talk about it, we really just want to consolidate all this retirement money, all these retirement accounts, get into these long-lasting, great returned funds that are averaging that 7% a year on average, right? Not every year you're going to get that. You're going to get negative years. This might be a negative year. Who knows? We're not off to a great start. So you may have a negative year this year, but I made a post like a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, that it showed you people are so stressed out about this year's retirement. And if you were about to retire, I understand stress can come with that, right? But what I'm also here to tell you is over the past 3 years, if you look and you average them, you have a 16% return on your money, right? Over the past 3 years, even with this negative that we're currently in, over the past 3 years, you still have a 16% return. Just saying. Don't be super stressed. Don't stress out about your retirement accounts. I did an episode on it, but anyways, this isn't about that. Preparing your accounts. Back to it. Preparing them. You should just end up with the 2 IRAs, traditional Roth IRA. Put all your 401ks, 403bs into those 2. You can just roll them over. Super easy. Doesn't take much. They send you a check, and then you send that to your IRA provider. Some allow you to deposit them directly over. Everybody's different, so consult with your 401k provider and your IRA provider, whoever that brokerage is, and see how they do that process. But it's super easy. I've done multiple 401k rollovers, not difficult whatsoever. So that's really the gist of this. When we talk about preparing, 15% of your income should go toward retirement. All of your traditional 401ks, 403bs should roll over to a traditional IRA when you leave the job. Consolidate them all into one traditional IRA. If you have a Roth 401k, 403b, roll it into a Roth IRA. If you're not contributing to your 401k 15%, you should really be contributing up to match on your 401k, contributing the rest to a Roth IRA, and then contributing the remainder, go back to your 401k to finish out to 15%. So if you made $60,000 a year and you maxed out your Roth, that's automatically 10% of your income is going into your Roth IRA for retirement. So that means if you got a 5% match from your company, you're only going to do 5% match on your 401k, and then you're going to max out your Roth, and you're done saving for retirement for the year, right? Like that's how this whole thing works. You just need 15% of your money going toward retirement, and then starting off with your match. Get your full match first. That's free money. We talked about that at the beginning. Full match first. Then you're going into a Roth IRA to put your $6,000. If $6,000 is 10% of your income and 5% match, you're done. If $6,000 is 5% of your income and you only had 5 on your 401k, well, you're only at 10%. Go back to your 401k and now do 10%. And now there's your 15. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, always reach out, thefinancialmirror.org. Reach out to me. But I hope this episode has truly brought on a new thought of how you can prepare for retirement. This is a new set of challenges for you to start working on, start to endure, a couple of tasks that you can go in and start completing. But if you'll navigate these steps and begin this whole consolidation process, you will be on your way to a more simplified, easier, and efficient retirement. And that brings me to another point. Retirement is planned. It's a planned event. It's going to come, it's planned. Like how your plan is established is up to you. You can go into it unplanned, but it will be a disaster. It will not come as easy as it could have. So it's not something that just falls into place. No matter what you think, it's not when you hit this age, you just magically retire perfectly. You got to build out your retirement. You got to know what your plan is. Knowing what your plan is, it involves first having a good understanding of how you're established and how you're going to be established. So if you are ready to take control of your finances, head on over to thefinancialmirror.org. Right in the middle of the screen when you log in, you will see book now. Go ahead and book your free consultation. I will be your financial coach. We will walk through your retirement plan and make sure that you are set up and ready to go for retirement. And if you are wanting to contribute a little bit to the stream, you can always go to thefinancialmirror.org/shop and pick you up some awesome Financial Mirror gear. It's truly a blessing to continue to be able to bring this information to you. I could not be more ecstatic about the ability to just help you get to where you want to be. Finally, if you are listening to this on YouTube or podcast or Facebook or wherever you found The Financial Mirror, just go ahead and hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and share this with all of your friends, all of your family, and all of your coworkers. It's truly a blessing. If you are on Apple and Spotify, please leave that 5-star review and a written comment, and share, obviously. Those go a long ways. But till next week, continue improving the one thing you can control, yourself. Peace.
Well, that wraps up today's Financial Mirror. Join us next week as we continue to work on ourselves, change our mentality, and to commit to achieving the success we always envisioned. Regardless of your platform, help us grow as a community. Please like, subscribe, and share with the people in your lives.